data, I really believe that they have very valuable information for it.
You can go whatever way you want. I know we come from different school districts, but we also have percentage just so maybe because you were here last year.
I was here last year. I'm Ken Moritz. I'm the Director of Human Resources for the Littleton School District. We're a suburban school district just south of Denver. North of Douglas County, we're kind of sandwiched in between Jefferson County and Cherry Creek. We consider ourselves the gem of the metro area. That's just us.
Good to know.
Yeah. But I'm a former secondary social studies teacher, was an assistant principal, was a high school principal for many years, and have been in HR looking to recruit the best teachers and the best principals across the state, across the country. So it's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to your questions. So.
Hi, I'm Allie Shore. I'm from Cooter School District in Fort Collins. I have a similar background, so except I spent 5 years at CSU. So.
Hi, I'm Michelle Saller. I'm actually a principal of an elementary school in School District 27J, formerly known as Brighton School District. We are actually Thornton, Commerce City, and Brighton now. I'm a principal of a school that opened 4 years ago in Thornton, right off the highway. I want to give the school perspective and truly what we look for at the school level. These people are HR, they know a whole lot more than I do about the logistics and things. I can tell you what we're really looking for in a school on a daily basis.
Hello, I'm Janice Spelks, and I too am a principal at a school site. I'm at Clayton Partnership School. It is a K-8 school, but we are part of Mapleton Public Schools. We are located just off of I-25. Our school district is very small by design. So none of our schools have more than 500 students. It's an amazing experience to be able to work directly with students. And our schools run from K-8, K-12, 7-12, and 9-12. And I am a former UNC professor, so go Bears. And I can tell you, I was an adjunct professor at the Center for Urban Ed, which is over in Stapleton. And at my particular school in Thornton, I have hired 6 of our graduate interns. So 98% of the students that come to our district and actually do their student teaching are hired at one of our 15 schools. So I'm looking forward to your questions. I know that UNC knows how to prepare teachers, and that's why I am here today, because we really would invite you to come to Mapleton Public Schools. You probably haven't heard of it before. We're referred to as Adams 1, because we do believe that we are number 1. So we welcome all of your questions.
You can tell that we're pretty competitive about our schools and school districts, and we are here competing. Just maybe some context. Last year, Colorado, the state of Colorado, 176 school districts needed to hire about 4,600 teachers across the state. All Colorado universities combined graduated 2,300 student teacher candidates. And so we are really in a teacher shortage across the state. So that's great news for you, right? And as you come through the pipeline, we are out recruiting and we're looking for talent. We're looking for teachers. From metro districts to rural school districts, we need really quality teachers. Over half the teachers in Colorado are coming here from another state. And so UNC does a great job of preparing candidates. Once you get out into the marketplace, that's where the HR people will try to get our hooks into you, and we will try to track you into schools, right to principals who do all the hiring and make decisions about who's on their staff. We want to keep people in the profession, and we want to keep you in the profession long term as HR folks. And so I will tell you some of the things maybe to start thinking ahead on, and just maybe I'll give my 3 top things to think ahead on.
But before you say that, may I tell them the bad news so that they can concentrate on what you're going to tell them?
There's no
Good
bad
news
news.
is the shortage. The bad news is that you do go out of state to recruit teachers, which means actually you have competition because there are states that have oversupply. So what I really, really want you to concentrate here is to see how you can prepare yourself to stand out. So that's the part.
Well, and you're right, and that it isn't so good news for you guys. It is good news. It's news for us. So we want to see, we are going to go find the best talent for our school districts, and we want to see teachers who are really strong academically, who understand student behavior, who can connect with students, whatever grade level you're working in. I think my words of wisdom for you right now is to go try to get involved in schools, volunteer, start a part-time job if you can. Start working and showing a track record of working with students at that particular age level. You don't want to get to the end of your program and go, geez, I really like elementary age kids. Too bad I'm a secondary licensure person. So really understand the age group you really want to work with, or the special population or the content area. I think that's probably tip number one. Tip number two, to make yourself marketable, get some experience working with diverse backgrounds and diverse populations. Dr. Wong said it, Colorado is the 6th most diverse state in the nation, and the Colorado Department of Education has some charges for school districts around that culturally linguistic diversity. And so we are going to be looking to continue to hire people who have experience working with diverse populations, understanding that in a cultural context. That's important. I think lastly, I want you to get hired. I want you to get out of your parents' basements. I want you to be able to pay off your college loans. And so we as HR folks are looking at your social media footprint as far back as it goes. And I'm sure you've probably heard this, but we're going to fingerprint all of you. We don't want to see that you've been arrested for a lot of things. We don't want to see any spring break trips down to wherever on your social media page, because the minute we hire you, the parents of your school are going to get, and they're going to Google you, and they're going to find out all those things about you from your past, some of the good and maybe some of the things you regret. So really be conscious about what you're putting out there to the world, to all employers, from a social media perspective. We want you to get hired. We want you to be great ambassadors of our schools. And to do that, that's got to happen in that social media space. So those are my 3 things. Alan, what do you got?
Well, I agree with all of that. Let's see. I also agree with your professor who said to get more than one endorsement. I think that's a really great idea. We would recommend math and special ed, please. That would be really helpful for us. I know that some of you don't like those areas, so a second endorsement would be very helpful, particularly the CLD. For me personally, I'm looking to hire a set of teachers who are more diverse than those of us that you see in front of us. And I don't only mean in terms of race and ethnicity, but I mean in terms also of experiences. So international travel really catches my eye on an application. A second language catches my eye on an application. Some kind of cool work that you've done with kids or something else that kind of sets you apart catches my eye. But the thing that I like to tell everyone, and usually I say this to student teachers, but I'll say it to you so that you can, because I know you're going to be in schools all along, is to treat everything that you do in a school as an interview. So when you are there doing, observations, that's an interview. When you're there chaperoning a dance, that's an interview. When you're in the lunchroom falling apart, that's an interview. All of those things are interviews, so you should treat it that way. And about the social media, I do agree, and it's not usually the education students, but your friends who are your liability. So now is a good time to start training your friends to not tag you, or whatever it is that you call it on your current Snapchat, whatever it is.
MySpace?
MySpace, right. There's little Even I know it's not my size. But just make sure that, you know, it's not usually you because you know what you want, you have a path, you're great students, you tend to be great students with, you're highly motivated for your future, but remind your friends that that's where you are and that you don't want your name out there, so. But really, we're so excited to be here, we're so excited to meet you. We love teaching, we love teachers, and we then will love you, so.
Classrooms, I think, is where the magic happens, and we need the right people in those classrooms to positively impact the future, which is the children in those classrooms. So I agree wholeheartedly. Get yourself dual certified. Get yourself elementary certified with taking the Praxis social studies test, so you have some diversity. If you don't like the math, the special ed, the CLD, you want something different, ask questions. Talk to guidance counselors. Talk about marketing. Ask those questions. Don't put your head in the sand. Don't let your spirit animal be an ostrich. You know what I'm saying? Get out there, ask questions. Because it may be a teacher shortage, but I can tell you, I'll repost, and I'll repost, and I'll repost until we find the right kind of person. And in my world, the right kind of person has a set of core values. They've worked with kids. Yes, they're in schools from right now on, because you have to figure out who you love and what language you teach or you talk the best. Is it elementary? Is it middle? I ended up in middle. 13 years of my career was middle. I thought middle people were insane until I went there and I realized I'm insane. I belong there. I'm now back at elementary and I'll find my way back to middle. But we hire core values. We hire based on what you know about yourself and what you bring in to make us better. So begin hanging out with children, figuring out the art and the science of teaching. There's a difference. And we can't really teach you the art. You gotta know it. You gotta learn it. You gotta come with it when you come to an interview. We can help you with the science. I can teach you Brayton Elementary. I can teach you public school education. But you've got to figure out the art and the science and what are your core values? What do you bring in to make the team better? So start paying attention to yourself and what hills you die on so that you know what you stand for, so that when you present yourself, you're not this, I just want to be a teacher. You're, I believe in collaborative community. I believe in positive intent. I believe in intentionality because every minute matters because we have the most important job in the world. Does that make sense? Cool. That's my thought.
So I believe a picture is worth 1,000 words. And you are all so tech savvy. I mean, when I need to figure out something at my school, whether it's with the smart board, whether it's with the basic document camera or the computer, who do I go to? I go to our young teachers, most of them who graduated from UNC and that are at my school, and I say, hey, how do I do this? I'll tell you, one of the most impressive interviews that I have ever had was with a candidate that came in and they were ready to roll. And I said, you know, tell me a little bit about yourself, because that's always one of the first questions, right? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us why you want to work with children. And this candidate, all 4 years of their undergraduate, had prepared for this one moment in their life. And what they did was they started freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, taking pictures of everything that they were doing. Whether they're working one-on-one with students, small group, whole class, no matter what you are doing, capture those moments. And this particular candidate came in and asked, you know, can I plug this into your computer and kind of shine this up on the wall? Well, every school has a, projector. And I said, oh, absolutely, that would be fantastic. And I'll tell you, the whole interview panel, because now it's not just you interviewing with a principal. You're walking into a room sometime with a principal, an assistant principal, a couple teachers, paraprofessionals, parents. Like, you may walk into a room full of people and you need to shine. And I'll tell you, when I first started 30 plus years ago, as an educator, and I always ask at this point if my oil of Olay was working, but do you guys even know what oil of Olay is? You do? Okay, because I mean, you look so young. But, you know, that's like, are the wrinkles there? And after 30 years, when I first interviewed, I remember interviewing 30 years ago, and I had the choice of 200 positions, and I was one candidate. I could interview and say, oh yeah, I'll take that job, that job, that job, or that job. I had a choice. Now, there are 200 candidates that are interviewing sometimes for that one position. So when you walk in that room, you need to shine. You need to let them know that I am here for kids, I have a passion for teaching. I was born to do this job. And I'll tell you, that candidate that walked in and captured all of those moments in visuals and in pictures and was able to talk to each of those experiences. When that candidate walked out, the committee looked at each other and we were like, okay, we're done. We don't even have to interview anymore because this person came in and showed us everything from working one-on-one, small group, whole class, technology, classroom management, instruction, you name it, a picture was worth 1,000 words. So start capturing those moments now. When you walk into an interview, are you going to be a little bit nervous? A little? Maybe? No? No, not even at all? Walking into a room of like 10 people, here I am. You may be a little nervous. And when you walk into that interview, what you want to do is you want to be able to breathe, you want to be able to relax, and you want to be able to shine. And in order to do that, sometimes you need that visual, that portfolio. That's something that that committee can look at, so you can take a moment, you can breathe in, and you can just share all of those experiences that you have captured over your 4 years here at UNC. So good luck. I'm excited to see UNC candidates walk through our door, and I know that all 15 schools in Mapleton are always looking for candidates from UNC. I'm glad I brought 200 folders because I wasn't sure how many people would be here. But I did bring Mapleton folders and we just sort of lined them up on the top. I know you're not ready to make your decision yet as to where you want to do your student teaching, but this is kind of a nice takeaway that just tells you a little bit about the heart and soul of our district, and it also tells you about each of our individual schools that are small by design. So it's just kind of a nice thing. Mapleton is going to be there. When you're ready to do your student teaching, it's a great opportunity. You can maybe move back at home and be somewhere in the Denver metro area to do your student teaching. So good luck. It's an exciting time.
Okay, you may have questions. I'm not so sure, but this is the opportunity for you to ask some questions, especially the questions that can help you prepare you better in a way that you can make yourself really marketable.
How student teaching as far as somebody who is non-traditional doesn't fit the young person coming in? You like diversity, you mentioned diversity, but is it really out there in the real world?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am looking for teachers who better mirror our students, and that is not what is in the classroom right now. And I don't just mean, like I said, diversity in terms of what you look like, but in your experiences, yes, yes, and yes. But that doesn't mean that we're not hiring brand new teachers too, so brand fresh, new, young.
I opened the building this is year 5, opened the building 4 years ago with 17 people. 17 people opened the entire building, 7 of them were first year teachers. Because you gotta take a risk on new people. A lot of the veteran teachers didn't want to open a building because it's an amazing amount of work. It's really exciting, but there's an amazing amount of work that goes with it. And so the newbies came running, and they are fabulous, and every one of them is still in-house today because they were nurtured and loved and supported. And so whatever your role may be and whatever your life path may have taken you, you can find a place that believes in you.
How about right there?
You guys kind of touched on this before, but just to clarify and specify with you, what other qualities do you look for in candidates? Like, endorsements, having that diversity, what else do you guys want?
Growth mindset.
Pardon?
Growth mindset. Continuous improvement. You're going to walk out of here and you're going to be shocked when you walk into a classroom and have to now apply all the theories that you've learned. It's hard. And people are going to give you advice and they're going to give you feedback, and you have to be open. You have to be okay with listening to people help you get better. That's one soft skill. There's a lot of them.
If you're trying to fill secondary education, would you prefer someone have, if they're going for a master's degree, a master's in education or a master's in the area they're trying to teach?
From an HR perspective, a content master's degree makes you a little bit more marketable in terms of teaching college-ready courses, community college courses for credit, as well as high school credit. So that gives you a little bit different sort of background. As a former high school principal, I could use you in a number of different ways.
I have a question. You said earlier that you should be a social studies teacher for secondary ed and then also high school principal. If that's our end game, is to be a principal down the road and everything, I mean, how likely, in the field, is it 10 years before you can apply to be principal? I mean, what's like a good, ballpark of expecting to be principal one day?
I think really getting yourself grounded in the classroom is going to be important. And so for however long that takes. And it all depends on where you're at and what opportunities you want to pursue. But get grounded in the classroom and know instruction well.
I was a teacher for 17 years before I lost my mind and went into administration. And this is, I think, my 8th year in admin, I don't remember. But you got to know instruction. You got to know what quality instruction is. You got to know and respect how hard that job is in order to then lead people who work that hard. So if that's 3 years, that's 3 years. If it's 17, it's 17. But you've got to value and appreciate how hard that job is before I think you leave.
When candidates come in with their profile or their, whatever they bring in, and they bring in references, what kind of references are you looking for? Are you looking for teachers, are you looking for past teachers that you've had, or for, past job experiences you've had?
Cooperating teachers.
We look for a variety of references, professional, personal, at the school site. One of the most important things, and I think sometimes we tend to forget this, is when we put down our references, most of the times you're interviewing like in May or in June, right at the end of the year, getting ready for the new school year, and make sure that those references are able to be contacted during those summer months. Sometimes you're putting down college professors or school site administrators or teachers, and you're putting down the school phone number, and so we are trying to call the references to get everybody clear, and we're finding, okay, this person isn't answering this email, or this telephone number, or the school is closed. So make sure that when you do put down those references, make sure you have a cell number or some sort of contact number that they can be reached, pretty much throughout the summer and throughout the school year.
You guys are really lucky that, one of the state's largest teacher recruiting fairs is held at UNC. And our organization, CASPA, which is the state HR folks, we typically come up in the springtime and we'll do a workshop on interviewing, resume writing, things like that, preparing for that recruiting fair. And so, put this in your date book 3 years down the road to make sure you attend those events and practice interviewing and practice getting your materials in front of the people who can hire you, because it makes a big difference. When we go out of state, sometimes we are comparing in-state talent versus out-of-state talent based on those fairs. So practice.
I finished my associates in Texas, and one of the courses that I took for my teaching associates in my community college focused a lot throughout the course of the semester over making a digital teacher portfolio. Do you guys utilize those in hiring?
We do in Overton.
Yeah. So what you'll find is every hiring practice is different. Every school district has a different practice. We look at different paperwork. We have applications, but every school district will be a little bit different in how we approach the hiring process. What's permissible in Littleton might not be Pooter's way. And so you're going to have to do your research on the school district where you want to work, where the opportunities are, and really get to know how to best showcase your talent for that district.
And whatever you do, I would recommend that you don't look at it just as an assignment for your school. You know, when I was teaching at CSU, the students would complain about the teacher work sample. Well, principals don't even look at it when we're hiring them. But if you look at it like it's preparation for your interviews, then you are so many steps ahead. And that's why a lot of times brand new teachers interview just as well or sometimes even better than teachers who've been teaching a long time because they're not thinking about what they're doing. They just do it. They're good at it. They do it, but they can't say what they do because they just do it. But if you think of all of your assignments not as just something to check off the box and get your grade or whatever, but as something that you can really use so that when I ask you in an interview, tell me about your favorite lesson. How did you plan it? How did you give it? How did you assess it? That you can think back to your, whatever you call it, your digital portfolio or your teacher work sample or whatever you're calling it here and say, oh yeah, I did this, I did this, I did this, and this is how I assessed it, this is how I know my kids loved it and that they learned. So, I mean, those are things that just try to keep in your mind when you're, you know, exhausted at 3 in the morning and you still have to plan your lesson for the next day. I think we try to think about it like that.
Also, when during the hiring process, do you look at the personality of the teacher candidates? Like, I mean, I know attitude of the teacher really matters, especially for elementary ed. Do you really look at the personality of a teacher?
Heck yeah, we do. We do speed dating at our school. We invite the entire staff. The entire staff does round 1, and we invite anybody that applies. And you partner up and you speed date. And so you answer a question at each table, and then the staff gets together and decides based on how they answer the questions. Tell us the time someone was critical about your teaching, you know. Tell us the time you were with a team that failed. How'd you know? You know, things like that. And then they decide who goes to round 2, who then does an act for us. They have to perform something for us. So it's not easy.
I like how much they can
Yeah.
It's very cool. Oh, it's very cool because well, it's collaborative. I'm an extremely collaborative leader. I don't do a whole lot by myself. They decide based on personalities, answers, thoughts, core values, those things. And it's so fun because I've stayed out of it. We just hired the dean of students, assistant principal this year, and they chose who they thought would work well with me, and I could have hired every one of them because they knew what would balance me, what would complement me, because we know each other so well. Because we spend time, tomorrow morning we're spending time doing collaborative community as a staff, because we know each other that well, because we should. Because they're all our kids. So, yes, growth mindset, collaboration, communication. How well do you communicate? Do you live with the ostrich? Is the ostrich really your animal? Or do you face conflict and work through it and understand that failure isn't fatal? You know, those perfectionist qualities that all of you have right now as young teachers, that haven't, you know, mellow those a little.
So we have 2 more minutes for questions.
So this might seem a little silly, but as far as the letters of recommendation go, let's say that I have this really cool program that was a part of my old school in Grand Junction, and by the time I apply to jobs, it's going to be a couple years old. Do you still appreciate that, or should I just kind of get something like super fresh and kind of toss it aside? Does that make sense?
I'd have both.
Yeah, I think if it tells your story,
Yeah.
if it's a piece of your story and who you are now, right?
You need a minimum of 3 references. You can have a lot more. And pull them out when they fit the situation.
I don't want to be like overwhelming with letters of recommendation. I hopefully that would happen, but where they seem like you're just too out of date.
And get a supervisor too. I look at supervisors. I call the supervisor reference. Have to have a supervisor. Because I want to know how you take direction. You how do you buy into the philosophy of wherever you worked, whether it's Starbucks, whether it's Cold Stone, whether it's a school,
You mentioned volunteering earlier in your presentation, and I wanted to ask you a little bit more of the details on some of that. I know that a lot of the students here are probably new to Greeley, and coordinating some of the graduate applications that I see come across my desk. A lot of the really good volunteer experiences in Greeley are things like working at the Global Refugee Center here in town, working at the United Way, volunteering at your local library, being a part of the Bear Hug Club here in the school teacher ed, working in a preschool or a church. There's a woman's place, tutoring, any kind of language immersion. There's the Weld County Food Bank and coaching, or just contact your local school district. I'm not sure if I missed much there, but I think that's such a great way to get started once you start college.
Yeah, that's a pretty good short list.
I mean, that's a great list, and we all agree, get your foot in the door at a school. That's when you really do show all of your qualities and characteristics. And I'll tell you, like last year we had an art teacher that left mid-year. And we had a student teacher who had finished their credential in December. So they immediately got their sub-license, jumped into, this is a secondary English teacher who said, I'll do art, I can do art, no problem, I can do art, and became our art sub for the year. And as it turned out, after those, couple months of being an art teacher and working in our school community, and we were able to see her classroom management and just her planning and instruction and knowing the standards and everything, what we found